Joining me now on set is one of those governors, Colorado's Democratic Governor Jared Polis. Governor Polis, good to see you.
Good to see you in person, Chuck.
I know you used to have to work here in Washington, so you're visiting.
Glad to be back in Colorado.
Let me start with the meeting at the White House. When the cameras were off, what was the agenda? What was the conversation?
Yeah, so you saw the intro. You know, there's historic federal investment. It's a combination of the Infrastructure Act, the Inflation Reduction Act.
You've never had more federal money to play with, right?
We've never had it. And so I think a common theme from the governors is give us the flexibility to make it work. That really coincides a lot with what the White House wants. They want to see the money be effective in generating change, whether it's around electric vehicle transition, whether it's about building reshoring manufacturing in the CHIPS Act. So there's a natural partnership there where governors are saying, hey, let's be flexible with the guidance so we can make this work. It's different in Delaware and California and Colorado. And I think there's a real commitment from the president to work with the states to make sure we get the maximum bang for our buck.
Well, it does seem as if you've got a ton of money. At what point, when this shuts down, how much harder is it going to be to balance your budgets?
None of this is used to balance our budget. So now, you know, going...
Oh, but money's fungible.
Well,
I mean,
going back, I think that's a good discussion around, for instance, the American Rescue Act funds, which do roll off. And this was more about the Infrastructure Act over the next 10 years, the Inflation Reduction Act, and the CHIPS Act. So, you know, in Colorado, we have a record budget surplus. There's a number of states that do, frankly. We have record reserves. In fact, one of the members of the president's administration praised the states on having such high reserve levels. Ours is about 15%. I think they said the average is like 11.5%. So most states are in a very strong fiscal situation right now. Now, we want to thank the American Rescue Act for helping us get there. But these new sources of funds are really transformative funds that we use over a period of time. They don't substitute or replace any part of our state budget.
Let me talk about a couple of things where I think the federal government either has to figure out a solution for you because you guys are fighting each other. One has to do with a regional issue with water and the river and all that stuff. The other has to do with migrants. So let's take on the migrant question. This is turning governors against governors here. Obviously, I know the governor of Illinois wasn't happy with you. What do you want from the federal government right now in dealing with this migrant crisis?
Well, I agree with your framing. First of all, the federal government should step in. I mean, states can't solve immigration. We do the best with what we have. I wish we had the ability to grant work permits. We don't. We don't control the border. So a few things the federal government can do constructively. One is to do temporary protected status for another round of Venezuelans. Most of the new group are Venezuelans. So pending their asylum cases, let's make sure.
So then if they were sent to Denver, you'd keep them?
You know what? It would turn a burden into an asset. We have a workforce shortage. We have 2 job openings for every applicant, every unemployed person. So we need them.
So you'll take some migrants if they want to go to work.
With the permission to work, we would love to have several thousand, without a doubt. Second, of course, secure our borders. That's an ongoing issue. They need congressional action. I don't think that's something the president can do alone. Third, support states and cities that are dealing with asylum seekers. So right now there's some potential pots of money, but there's not a real program that will support the cities and states that want to do this work. The city of Denver and Colorado did some of this work. Over 4,000 people passed through Colorado. We have about 900, mostly Venezuelan immigrants that have decided to move to Colorado. So let's assist the cities and states that want to be part of the solution.
Did that come up in this conversation today?
So I wish we talked more of it. It came up, we did have Secretary Mayorkas there for part of it, and so we brought up, again, there's a lot of concern I share about what will happen when Title 42 ends in May, and so making sure that the federal government has a plan. We hope they do. If they do, they haven't shared it fully with us yet, but we've said you need a plan. We want them to vet it with us. We want to make sure it's not what we experienced in December ×5 or ×3. That would be a disaster for the country. It would be terrible for the Biden administration.
Let me ask you a little bit about politics. I'm going to ask you a question we asked the idea of a Biden 2024 candidacy. Are you enthusiastic? Are you comfortable? Do you have some reservations, or are you uncomfortable?
Well, look, I mean, the president needs to be the one who says I'm running, and I'll be excited to support him.
So you're enthusiastic?
It's up to him. I'll be enthusiastic if he's enthusiastic.
That's an interesting way of putting it. Why do you say it that way?
Well, only the president can answer the question with Jill. You know, he has a fire in his belly. He's ready to do it. We had a great meeting with him today. And
do you think he's ready to go again?
From my perspective,
yes.
It sure is.
I mean, if somebody asks you,
him,
hey, Governor, you tell me, you've been with the president. Is he up to the job?
Oh, of course.
He's
the same Joe Biden we always knew. I knew him when he was vice president. He is a class act. He is on the top of his game. There's no question about that.
What do you think he needs to do? Because what's interesting here is Democratic insiders and Washington Democrats, they're pretty comfortable with Joe Biden. The rank and file is a little nervous. Should he have to do for the public to convince the public that he's got the vigor?
It's really talking about some of the accomplishments of the last few years and how they impact people and how they will impact people. I mean, whether it's the Inflation Reduction Act, the American Rescue Act. I mean, what we did with some of the funds for American Rescue Act, remember, it passed through states. So states got a lot of the credit, governors got a lot of the credit. I don't mind the credit, but you know what? Frankly, that was Congress and President Biden that delivered the ability for states to work. We used it for transformational change on affordable housing, on reducing homelessness, on behavioral health support going in. So a lot of big things the Coloradans value. Same in all 50 states. But really, I think it's a matter of making sure that people know that, yes, President Biden was a big part of making that happen.
I'm curious if you have any thoughts on the entitlement fights here, which is, look, I know these are very popular programs. Medicare, Medicaid is becoming more popular too, I think, and Social Security. They're not sustainable without some action. What's the right conversation we should be having?
Well, I was a Bull Simpson guy from way back.
Yes, you were, and so was
and President Obama wanted to.
If you tried to do Bull Simpson today, the party would attack you for it.
Well, you don't have to do. I mean, at the time, it wasn't exactly pleasant either. But
right.
Look, I mean, I think the answer is not to stick your head in the sand. I mean, it's easy to stick your head in the sand in politics. You can do that. You can do it for a year. You can do it for 3 years. But we can't do this forever as a nation. And frankly, it's better to get ahead of it and address this now. Always has to be bipartisan. Either party can demonize the other. So I mean, neither party.
You have to jump off the cliff together.
Yeah, it's not a cliff. In many ways, it's saving these. It's a framing, right? We want to save these programs. They're a value to the American people, right? We want Social Security to be there for people who are paying into it that are in their 30s and 40s today. We want to make sure.
But when a politician says that today, an opponent says, "You want to cut Social Security."
Yeah, I think that the answer is you want to save it. I want to save it. I mean, I always did. Again, it's something that people have to do together. It's not based on ideology. It's based on the math, right? And yes, some Republicans do have to get over their ideology. Some of them do not like these programs.
Right.
Okay, set that aside. I think many Republicans do value these programs. We saw President Biden took it to them the other day. So let's work on the math. To Democrats, some of them, frankly, want to expand these programs.
Right.
God bless them. That's their ideology. But again, set that aside. Let's talk about actuarial soundness and math, kind of rather than ideology. The only answer is through math, Chuck. It's not through ideology.
You preach there. Math is you can't defeat math. Governor Polis, good to see you.
Thanks
for coming in.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.